The Power to Control Your Mind. Introduction. This document posits the mind as a complex and dynamic system, the functioning of which is frequently characterized by a state of internal disorganization. The individual, in this context, may be conceptualized as an administrative authority lacking executive control. Cognitive processes, such as thoughts, may be observed to operate in an uncontrolled and chaotic manner. States of anxiety are often manifested as a culmination of cognitive traffic, while instances of anger may be likened to explosive events within a confined space. Despite the mind's inherent potential, its perpetual state of internal tumult has been found to preclude the individual from experiencing a state of genuine contentment or effective functionality. The current psychological condition of a significant portion of the populace is marked by an uninterrupted flow of mental noise, encompassing repetitive recollections of past errors and speculative apprehensions regarding future events. This condition results in the subjective experience that one's cognitive processes are the dominant force, thereby dictating emotional states, behavioral patterns, and overall well-being. Individuals may be observed to react impulsively, to be unduly influenced by emotional states, and to become entrenched in cyclical patterns of stress and negativity. It is a central thesis of this work that this condition is not a fixed or immutable state. The publication entitled The Power to Control Your Mind does not advocate for the attainment of a state of mindlessness. It is not an instructional manual for cessation of cognitive activity or the development of an emotionless state. Instead, it constitutes a pragmatic guide for the reclamation of one's mental autonomy. The objective is to transition from a position of mental subjugation to one of self-governance. The mind is herein defined as an instrument which, like any other tool, may be refined, directed, and utilized for the deliberate construction of one's life, rather than for the generation of internal disorder. Upon the completion of this document, the reader will possess an understanding of the fundamental mechanics of their own cognitive apparatus, including its operational principles, its potential for self-sabotage, and the methods by which one may assume a position of command. The methodologies presented are predicated upon established scientific principles and are designed to facilitate the reduction of internal cognitive chatter, the regulation of emotional responses, and the focused direction of attention. The content will explore the processes of observing one's thoughts without becoming enmeshed within them, selecting a deliberate response in lieu of an impulsive reaction, and cultivating an intentional mindset. This endeavor represents a journey towards self-mastery. The process will necessitate sustained practice, patience, and a willingness for introspection. The resulting benefits are considered to be of profound nature, including, but not limited to, a state of enhanced internal tranquility, improved cognitive focus, and the unwavering conviction that one possesses a capacity to navigate life's challenges with mental clarity and resilience. The authority to control one's mind is a potential that resides within each individual, and this work provides a means by which this potential may be realized. The commencement of this process is now at hand. Part 1. Understanding the Untamed Mind. Imagine for a moment that your mind is not you, but a complex, autonomous machine. For most of us, this machine runs on its own, churning out thoughts, memories, and worries without our conscious direction. This part of the book is about understanding this machine. Before we can learn to steer it, we first have to understand its default settings, its quirks, and the powerful forces that shape its behavior. Think of this as the user manual you never received for your own brain. Chapter 1. The Mind's Default Mode. Our brains are incredible problem-solving machines. They are constantly trying to anticipate threats, conserve energy, and make sense of our world. But what happens when there are no immediate problems to solve? Most people assume the mind simply goes quiet. The reality is quite the opposite. When you're not actively focused on a task, whether you're in the shower, on a walk, or lying in bed, your brain defaults to a restless, wandering state. This is the state of the default mode network, DMN. This network is a collection of brain regions that become active when we're not engaged in a specific task. Its job is to think about the past, fret about the future, and engage in social comparisons. It's the engine behind what's often called the monkey mind, a constant chattering stream of thoughts that jumps from one idea to the next without a clear purpose. It's like a monkey swinging wildly from branch to branch, unable to settle down on a single thought. The DMN is the reason you might find yourself reliving an embarrassing moment from high school while washing dishes, or worry about a project that's due in a month while driving to work. It's always on, constantly rehearsing old conversations and generating new fears. The problem isn't that these thoughts exist. It's that we often get swept away by them, treating every fleeting idea as an urgent command or profound truth. The tyranny of rumination and worry. The most common output of the default mode network is rumination and worry. Rumination is a tendency to obsessively think about negative events from the past. It's that constant replay button in your head, dwelling on mistakes, perceived slights, or what you should have said. Rumination is a mental trap because it tricks you into believing you're solving a problem when you're actually just reliving the pain. It's like picking at a wound and expecting it to heal. The more you ruminate, the deeper the neural pathway becomes, making it even easier for your mind to travel down that road next time. Worry, on the other hand, is the mind's anxious rehearsal of future disasters. It's a series of what-if scenarios that rarely, if ever, come to pass. You may worry about a presentation, about what a friend thinks of you, or about an impending financial stressor. Worry gives you the illusion of control, the feeling that by thinking about a problem, you are somehow preparing for it. But often, it's just a circular loop of unproductive anxiety that drains your mental and physical energy. Both rumination and worry are deeply rooted in our evolutionary history. Our ancestors' survival often depended on their ability to anticipate threats and learn from past mistakes. The brain that constantly scanned the horizon for danger and replayed every social cue was the brain that lived to see another day. However, in the modern world, this powerful survival mechanism has become a misfire. Our minds are still on high alert. Even when there are no tigers in the bushes or storms on the horizon, this constant state of mental preparedness is a significant cause of chronic stress and anxiety. Our minds are built to solve problems, but when they can't find any real ones, they start inventing them. The key takeaway from this first chapter is simple but crucial. Your mind's default state is not a reflection of your personality or a sign of weakness. It is a biological process. You are not a ruminator or a worrier by nature. You are simply the owner of a powerful machine running on its default setting. The good news is that you can override these settings. You can learn to be the conscious director of your thoughts, and the next chapter will show you how. Chapter 2, The Two Systems of Thinking. To truly understand how our minds operate, we need to look at how we make decisions and form beliefs. Think about your own day. When you wake up, you don't have to consciously think about how to stand or walk. You instinctively know how to make coffee, and you can drive a familiar route while lost in thought. But if you're asked to solve a complex puzzle or plan an intricate project at work, your mind shifts gears. It slows down, becomes more focused, and requires significant effort. Psychologist Daniel Kahneman, in his groundbreaking book Thinking, Fast and Slow, popularized the idea that our brains operate on two distinct systems. System 1 is your mind's fast, automatic, and emotional pilot. This is a part of your brain that works without you needing to think about it. It's a genius at pattern recognition and quick judgments. System 1 is responsible for the instant feeling of trust you get when meeting someone new, the way you immediately know the answer to 2 plus 2, and your gut reaction when a car suddenly swerves in front of you. It's the engine of intuition and impulse, and it relies on mental shortcuts and ingrained biases to make thousands of decisions a day with incredible efficiency. The downside of this speed is that System 1 is prone to errors and biases. It works so fast that it often jumps to conclusions, filling the gaps with assumptions instead of facts. For example, System 1 is where confirmation bias lives, the tendency to search for, interpret, and favor information that confirms our pre-existing beliefs. It's also where emotional reasoning takes place, making us believe something is true simply because it feels true. System 2 is your mind's slow, deliberate, and logical commander. This system is what we typically associate with thinking. It's the part of your mind that solves a complex algebra problem, carefully weighs the pros and cons of a job offer, or works through a difficult moral dilemma. System 2 is methodical and requires effort. When you're learning a new skill, like driving a stick-shift car or playing a musical instrument, you're almost exclusively using System 2. Because System 2 is so taxing, our brains are hardwired to use it as little as possible. This is where the trap lies. We often believe we are making logical, well-thought-out decisions, but in reality, our fast-acting System 1 has already made the call, and System 2 simply provides a justification after the fact. We rationalize a purchase we made on a whim, or defend an emotional outburst with fabricated logic. The goal of gaining mental control is not to eliminate System 1, which would be impossible and undesirable, but to learn to recognize when it is in control and to intentionally engage System 2 when it matters most. The techniques we will explore in the coming chapters are designed to do exactly that. They will help you create a mental pause, a small but powerful gap in time and space between a stimulus and your reaction. This pause is a critical moment when you can choose to override the fast, automatic instincts of System 1 and consciously engage the deliberate, logical power of System 2. The first step to controlling your mind is to understand its dual nature. It is not a single entity, but a dynamic partnership. Your journey to self-mastery begins with learning how to direct that partnership, ensuring that the right system is in charge at the right time. Chapter 3. The Brain Plasticity and Your Power. For a long time, scientists believed that the adult brain was a static, unchanging organ. This view led to a pervasive and limiting belief that we are stuck with the minds we were given. The grumpy person will always be grumpy. The anxious person is destined to be anxious. But today, we know this is completely false. The brain is incredibly adaptable and can change and reorganize itself throughout your entire life. This ability is called neuroplasticity. To understand neuroplasticity in simple terms, think of your brain like a vast network of roads and highways. Every time you think a thought or perform an action, you're traveling a particular road. The more you repeat that thought or action, the wider and more established that road becomes. For instance, if your default is to worry about money, a neural pathway has been forged between the concept of money and the feeling of anxiety. Every time you worry, you are driving down that road, paving it, and adding more lanes. Over time, it becomes a multi-lane superhighway, a default route your mind takes with very little effort. Conversely, roads you don't travel on fall into disrepair. An old and used road gets overgrown with weeds and eventually disappears. This is the use it or lose it principle of the brain. The neural connections you repeatedly use become stronger, more efficient, and more automatic. The connections you ignore and neglect become weaker and eventually get pruned away. This is the most powerful and hopeful concept in this entire book. It means that you are not a helpless victim of your past habits. You are the architect of your own brain. You have the ability to consciously build new roads and let the old, unhelpful ones fade away. For example, if you consciously choose to practice gratitude every day, you are building a new neural pathway. At first, it might feel like a bumpy dirt road, slow, difficult, and unnatural. But with each repetition, you lay down a new layer of asphalt. Soon, it becomes a paved road. With continued practice, it can become a new superhighway for positive, grateful thinking, making it the new default. Neuroplasticity works on a cellular level. When neurons in your brain fire together, they wire together. This means that when one neuron sends a signal to another, the connection between them becomes stronger, making it easier for them to communicate in the future. By intentionally directing your thoughts, focus, and actions, you're directly influencing the physical structure of your brain. You are literally reshaping the pathways that govern your habits, emotions, and reactions. This is not a theoretical concept. It's a proven reality. Studies have shown that people who learn a new skill, like juggling or playing an instrument, experience measurable physical changes in their brains. Similarly, Individuals who engage in regular mindfulness and meditation practices show changes in brain regions associated with attention and emotion regulation. The techniques we will explore in the next section are not just mental tricks. They are tools for actively rewiring your brain. You will learn to star the old negative superhighways of attention and consciously build new, more productive ones. The power is in your hands. You may have inherited a mind with some default settings you don't like, but you have the power to change them. The rest of this book is your guide to doing exactly that, one thought and one action at a time. Part 2. The Core Principles of Mental Control. The preceding discourse has established a conceptual framework for the understanding of cognitive function and its unregulated tendencies. This section shall now transition from a theoretical exposition to a procedural methodology, delineating the fundamental techniques prerequisite for the acquisition of self-regulatory control over the human mind. The principles herein are considered foundational skills, the mastery of which is requisite before their application to specific cognitive challenges. It is posited that these principles facilitate a fundamental reorientation of the individual's relationship with their internal cognitive processes, thereby enabling the individual to operate as a deliberate director of their subjective inner world rather than as a passive recipient of its contents. Chapter 4. The Power of Observation, Mindfulness. Prior to the exercise of cognitive control, it is a fundamental prerequisite to cultivate an awareness of one's mental state. The majority of human cognitive processes and behavior responses occur through an automated, unconscious modality. Instances such as a subjective state of anger or a sensation of anxiety are not infrequently experienced as direct manifestations of one's being, rather than as transient phenomena. The initial and most critical action for the achievement of mental self-regulation is the establishment of a psychological distance from one's own thoughts. This is the practice of mindfulness. Mindfulness, in its most elementary definition, is the non-judgmental awareness of the present moment. This is in direct contradiction to the common misconception that it involves the eradication of all thought, an objective which is considered unattainable. Instead, the practice entails the cultivation of the capacity to observe one's thoughts and emotional states as they emerge, without becoming immersed within their content. The individual adopts a perspective analogous to that of a scientific observer in a laboratory, merely documenting observations without the inclusion of personal judgment or the desire for modification. This methodology establishes a critical psychological separation between the individual, who serves as the observer, and the mind, which functions as the cognitive instrument. The process of observation is the foundational step for the acquisition of knowledge concerning the subject's own internal cognitive landscape. Methodologies for mindful awareness. The following methodologies or protocols are posited as elementary exercises for the commencement of a mindfulness practice. They've been formulated to be of a brief duration and are capable of being executed in any location, thereby serving to disrupt the habitual, automated cycle and facilitate a return to the present moment. The 5 Senses Walk Protocol. This is an efficacious exercise that may be performed during perambulation or even a brief stroll within a confined space. The objective is to deliberately and consciously engage each of the 5 sensory modalities, one at a time. This process serves to redirect attentional focus from internal cognitive processes to the external, physical reality of one's surroundings. Visual perception. Direct attention to an object that is typically overlooked. Note the intricate pattern of a leaf or the specific chromatic shade of green in the vegetation. Observe the subtle fissures in the surface or the manner in which ambient light is reflected. The objective is to perceive these elements as pure visual data without assigning a categorical label to them. Auditory perception. Direct focus to the various auditory stimuli in the environment. Attend to the distant hum of a vehicle, the vocalizations of avifauna, the rustling of foliage, or the sound of one's own footsteps. Listen for the distinct strata of sound without constructing a narrative or assigning a meaning. Olfactory perception. Perform a deep inhalation and identify any scents present in the atmosphere. Note the aroma of precipitation, freshly cut vegetation, or the fragrance of a nearby bakery. Be cognizant of how the scent profile may undergo modification as a result of a change in location. Tactile perception. Direct attention to the physical sensations upon the skin. Note the thermal sensations of solar warmth, the coolness of a breeze, or the tactile characteristics of clothing. Be aware of the sensation of the ground beneath one's feet and the gravitational force exerted upon the body. Gustatory perception. If ingesting food or drink, consciously savor a single morsel or sip. Note all flavors, textures, and temperatures. Attend to the experience of mastication and deglutition rather than engaging in a state of mindless consumption. Breath awareness protocol. This is the most widely adopted and efficacious mindfulness exercise. The breath is consistently present, thereby constituting a perfect anchor to the present moment. The act of concentrating upon one's breath serves to calm the nervous system through the stimulation of the vagus nerve, a major cranial nerve that plays a pivotal role in the body's parasympathetic rest and digest response. Secure a comfortable position, either seated upon the floor or in a chair. Gently close the eyes or merely soften the gaze. Direct attention to the breath and observe its natural rhythm. No attempt should be made to alter it. The objective is solely observation. Pay meticulous attention to the physical sensations, the cool air entering the nasal passages upon inhalation, the slight elevation and descent of the thorax or abdomen, and the warm air exiting the body upon exhalation. When the mind inevitably wanders, a natural occurrence, simply acknowledge the diversion of thought and gently redirect one's attention back to the breath. The action of returning is, in itself, the core of the practice. Journaling as a tool. Journaling is not exclusively a form of narrative record-keeping. It can also function as a potent mindfulness tool. The practice of externalizing one's cognitive processes onto a written medium permits a detached, objective view of the mental activity. This creates a psychological separation, allowing the thoughts to be viewed from a distance, akin to a script upon a page. Through this method, an individual may begin to discern recurring patterns, anxieties, and thematic elements that were previously unobserved due to internal preoccupation. Chapter 5. Detachment. Watching thoughts like clouds. Mindfulness provides initial awareness. Detachment provides a subsequent freedom. Once the capacity to observe one's thoughts has been established, the succeeding step involves the recognition that these thoughts do not constitute an intrinsic part of one's being. This is a conceptual distinction between the observer's self and the thinking self. The thinking self is the incessant, subjective narrative consisting of thoughts, opinions, and judgments. It is the noisy occupant within the vehicle of consciousness. The observer self is the quiescent operator, whose function is merely to witness the ongoing stream of consciousness. The objective is not to silence the occupant, but rather to cease the identification with the occupant. A metaphorical representation of this concept is the observation of one's thoughts as clouds passing in the sky. Some may appear dark and tempestuous, while others are light and ethereal. Some may assume the form of a familiar visage, while others resemble a passing animal. An individual would never perceive a cloud and state, "I am that cloud." Similarly, one's thoughts drift into and out of awareness, but they are not an immutable component of one's identity. A procedural protocol for reframing negative self-talk. This principle is most efficacious when applied to negative internal narratives, which are frequently a source of considerable psychological distress. Thoughts such as, "I am a failure" or "I am not adequate" are not factual statements. They are merely cognitive constructs. The application of detachment enables the reframing of these narratives, thereby neutralizing their potency. The following is a simple procedural protocol. Identification of the thought. Intercept a negative thought as it emerges, such as, "I am a failure," following a minor error. Acknowledgement of the thought. Rather than becoming overwhelmed, acknowledge the thought by internally stating, "I am currently experiencing the thought that I am a failure." This simple declarative statement is a powerful act of separation, reclassifying a thought from a component of one's identity to an object of observation. Formulation of a detachment statement. Reframe the thought in a manner that establishes separation between the individual and the thought. For example, it is noteworthy that my mind is presenting the thought that I am a failure, or this is a thought that my mind has produced, but it is not a factual representation. This process places a critical psychological distance between the individual and the thought, thereby diminishing its power. It is not necessary to engage in a debate with the thought, to accept its validity, or to act upon it. One may simply allow it to pass, akin to a cloud in the sky. Chapter 6. Conscious Response, Not Reaction. The renowned psychiatrist and Holocaust survivor, Viktor Frankl, articulated a profound principle. Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. This statement encapsulates the entire philosophical framework of this volume. The majority of human behavior is characterized by a state of reactivity. A verbal slight from a colleague elicits an immediate, unthinking response of anger. The onset of an alarm clock triggers an automated reflex to postpone its function. Conscious control is defined by the cultivation of this space. Practical steps for the creation of a pause. The objective is to interrupt the automated cognitive loop of System 1 and to engage the deliberate faculties of System 2. The STOP, Tactical Intervention Protocol. This is a rapid, insighted technique that may be employed during any moment of heightened emotional arousal. S. Stop. Cease all current actions or verbal communication. Freeze for a brief temporal interval. T. Take a breath. Execute a slow, deep, conscious inhalation. This action transmits a signal to the nervous system to achieve a state of calm and provides a moment of cognitive clarity. O. Observe. Conduct an assessment of internal bodily sensations, thoughts, and impulses. Observe these phenomena without the inclusion of judgment. P. Proceed. Following this moment of observation, the individual is endowed with the agency to select their response. The action is no longer based upon instinct, but is a deliberate choice. The 5-second temporal disruption mechanism. When an individual experiences the impulse to react, whether it be to utter a hostile remark, to transmit an emotionally charged electronic message, or to engage in procrastination, a countdown of 5 should be initiated prior to execution. The simple act of counting serves to disrupt the automated chain of command from impulse to action. This temporal interval is frequently sufficient for System 2 to activate and present a more rational and thoughtful alternative. Chapter 7. The Art of Focus and Attention. An unregulated mind is a mind characterized by a state of cognitive fragmentation. In a contemporary environment, human attention is in a constant state of siege from digital notifications, social media platforms, and myriad digital distractions. The achievement of true mental control is not merely the management of negative thoughts. It is a deliberate direction of one's attentional resources toward a desired locus. This capacity constitutes a skill, and like all skills, it may be strengthened through consistent practice. The fallacy of multitasking. For a considerable duration, the capacity to multitask was lauded as an indicator of heightened efficiency. However, the reality is that multitasking is a fallacy. The activity colloquially referred to as multitasking is more accurately termed task switching, a process which is profoundly inefficient. The human brain does not execute multiple tasks concurrently. Rather, it rapidly oscillates its attention between tasks. Each oscillation incurs a cognitive cost, necessitating the re-engagement with a new task, the recall of its prior state, and the disengagement from the context of the preceding task. This process results in an elevated rate of errors, a reduction in performance speed, and a state of heightened cognitive fatigue. The analogy of a single processor computer attempting to execute a multitude of complex programs concurrently is an appropriate representation of this phenomenon, the efficacy of single tasking and deep work. The corrective measure for cognitive fragmentation is single tasking. This is a conscious decision to allocate one's full, undivided attention to a single task at a given time. The more this practice is engaged in, the more robust the capacity for sustained focus becomes. The Pomodoro Technique. This is a structured temporal framework for the training of attentional focus, particularly for tasks of a complex or challenging nature. Select a single task for execution. Set a timer for a duration of 25 minutes. Work on the selected task with complete focus without any digital or external distractions. Upon the expiration of the timer, a brief respite of 5 minutes should be taken. After the completion of 4 such pomodoros, a longer respite of 15 to 30 minutes is recommended. This technique conditions the brain to sustain focus for a specified period and assists in the surmounting of initial resistance to difficult tasks. The manipulation of environmental variables for the mitigation of cognitive fragmentation. The external environment is a significant determinant of one's capacity for focus. To achieve mastery of attention, it is imperative to exercise control over one's surroundings. All notifications on electronic devices should be disabled. Unnecessary tabs in web browsers should be closed. The use of digital tools to block access to distracting websites is a form of proactive self-regulation. The individual should communicate their need for a period of uninterrupted focus to others in their vicinity. Through the application of these core principles, mindful awareness, detachment, conscious response, and directed attention, the individual is not merely learning to manage their mind. They are actively engaging in its reorganization. This constitutes the bedrock upon which all other forms of mental mastery are constructed. Part 3. Applying mental control to key life areas. In Part 2, you learn the foundational principles of mental mastery: observation, detachment, conscious response, and focused attention. These are the tools you will use to build your mental fortress. Now, in this section, we will take these tools and apply them directly to the key areas of your life where they will have the most significant impact. You will learn how to use your newfound skills to conquer anxiety, manage difficult emotions, overcome procrastination, and cultivate a truly positive mindset. Chapter 8. Conquering Anxiety and Stress. Anxiety and stress are not just feelings. They are a physiological and psychological loop. Your mind, operating on its default setting, anticipates a threat. This anticipation triggers your body's fight or flight response, an ancient survival mechanism designed to protect us from physical danger. Licensed by Google, the sympathetic nervous system goes into overdrive, releasing stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline. Your heart rate increases, your breathing becomes shallow, your muscles tense, and blood is diverted from non-essential functions like digestion to your limbs, preparing you to either fight the threat or run from it. This physical reaction then sends a signal back to your brain, confirming that you are, in fact, in danger, which makes your mind generate even more anxious thoughts. This is the mind's fear factory, and it operates on a feedback loop that can be difficult to break. This loop is fueled by a process called catastrophizing, where your mind takes a single negative thought or event and spins it into a worst-case scenario. For example, a minor mistake at work becomes a fear of being fired, which then becomes a fear of financial ruin, and so on. This isn't a conscious, logical process. It's a powerful, automatic reaction driven by the amygdala, the brain's alarm center. Your prefrontal cortex, the home of your logical system 2 thinking, gets hijacked by the noise, leaving you feeling helpless. Techniques for disrupting the loop. Fortunately, you now have the tools to intervene. By using the principles of mindfulness and conscious response, you can disrupt this loop and calm your nervous system. Breath work for calming the nervous system. Your breath is the single most powerful tool you have for directly influencing your nervous system. When you are anxious, your breathing is short and shallow. This erratic breathing pattern reinforces the danger signal to your brain. By consciously changing your breath, you can signal to your body that you are safe and trigger the parasympathetic nervous system, which is responsible for the rest and digest state. The long exhale in particular is what stimulates the vagus nerve, a key component of the system. A longer exhale lowers your heart rate and signals to your brain that the perceived threat has passed. The 4-7-8 breath. Inhale quietly through your nose for a count of 4. Hold the breath for a count of 7. Exhale completely through your mouth, making a whooshing sound for a count of 8. Repeat this a few times. This technique, developed by Dr. Andrew Weil, forces your nervous system to calm down, slowing your heart rate and redirecting your focus. Cognitive restructuring to challenge anxious thoughts. Anxiety often feeds on irrational or exaggerated thoughts. Cognitive restructuring is the process of using your system two mind to challenge the faulty logic of your system one fears. This technique is about becoming a detective of your own mind, searching for facts rather than accepting a fear-based narrative. Step 1. Identify the thought. When you feel anxiety, pause and identify the specific thought causing it. Write it down in a single sentence. For example, a social anxiety thought might be, if I go to this party, I won't have anything to say, and everyone will think I'm boring and awkward. Step 2. Challenge the evidence. Now, put on your detective hat and look for evidence. Ask yourself, what evidence do I have that this is true? Have I been to a party before where I had nothing to say? Is there any evidence that people will specifically think I'm boring? Then, consider counter-evidence. What evidence do I have that this is not true? Maybe I'll find a single person to talk to. Maybe it's not about being the life of the party, just about showing up. Step 3. Reframe the thought. Based on your findings, create a new, more realistic and balanced thought. It doesn't have to be overly positive, just more accurate. For example, it's possible I'll feel a bit awkward at the party, but it's also possible I'll have a good conversation. My goal is just to attend and be open to the experience. This process forces your mind to move from an emotional, reactive state to a logical, deliberate one, and it helps you to regain control over the narrative. Grounding and visualization for a positive outcome. When anxiety is intense, sometimes you need to get out of your head entirely. Grounding techniques bring your attention to the present moment, anchoring you to reality. The 5-4-3-2-1 method is a simple and effective grounding exercise. 5. Acknowledge 5 things you can see. 4. Acknowledge 4 things you can feel. 3. Acknowledge 3 things you can hear. 2. Acknowledge 2 things you can smell. 1. Acknowledge 1 thing you can taste. This redirects your attention from the swirling thoughts in your head to the physical reality of your surroundings. Beyond the 5-4-3-2-1 method, you can use a physical anchor. This is any object you can hold and focus on to ground yourself. A smooth stone, a stress ball, or even your car keys can serve this purpose. By focusing on its texture, weight, and temperature, you anchor your mind to the physical world, breaking the chain of anxious thought. Your mind also can't tell the difference between a vividly imagined event and a real one. By using visualization, you can create a positive mental rehearsal that changes the emotional charge around an upcoming event. Close your eyes and vividly imagine the anxious event going well. See yourself calm, confident, and articulate. Feel the sense of accomplishment and relief. Do this for a few minutes each day leading up to the event. This exercise begins to build a new, positive neural pathway in place of the anxious one. Chapter 9. Controlling your emotions and building resilience. Anxiety isn't the only emotion that can feel out of control. Anger, frustration, and sadness can all feel overwhelming. Gaining control over your emotions is not about suppressing them. It's about understanding them and choosing a wise response. This is the essence of emotional intelligence, EQ, which is often a more accurate predictor of success and happiness than raw intellect. EQ is a combination of 2 key skills: understanding and managing your own emotions, and understanding and influencing the emotions of others. Managing anger and frustration. Anger is a powerful, primal emotion. It's an indicator that a boundary has been crossed or a need is not being met. The key to controlling it is to create a pause before you react. This pause is the moment where you engage your system to mind. The emotional check-in. When you feel a surge of anger, take a quick inventory. Ask yourself, what am I feeling right now? Is it really anger, or is it hurt, embarrassment, or fear? What triggered this feeling? Is a rude comment a long day or a deeper-seated frustration? And what do I need right now? Do I need space, to communicate my needs, or just a deep breath. This simple pause, even just 10 seconds long, can prevent you from saying or doing something you will regret. Understand the triggers. Journal about your moment of anger. Look for recurring triggers. Do you get angry when you feel disrespected? When you're tired? When you feel like you're not being heard? Understanding your triggers allows you to see the emotion coming and consciously choose a different path, perhaps by communicating your needs proactively or taking a moment to de-stress before a known trigger. Building resilience, a positive inner narrative. Resilience is the ability to bounce back from setbacks. It is built not by avoiding hardship, but by changing your internal narrative about it. The way you talk to yourself in moments of failure or disappointment is the most important factor in your recovery. The power of gratitude. Gratitude is a muscle. By practicing it daily, you train your mind to look for the good in your life, even amidst difficulty. Keep a small gratitude journal where you write down 3 things you are thankful for each day. This simple practice can reshape your perspective over time, making it easier to find hope in difficult moments. It widens your view from a single negative event to the broader picture of your life, where many things are still going right. Reframe setbacks as lessons. An untamed mind sees a setback as a reflection of personal failure. I fail because I'm not good enough. A controlled mind sees as a lesson. I fail because of my approach, and here's what I can change. When something goes wrong, ask yourself, what can I learn from this? What is a single positive action I can take now? This shifts your focus from rumination to constructive action. Chapter 10. Unleashing your potential and overcoming procrastination. Procrastination is often misunderstood as laziness. In reality, it is a complex mental habit rooted in fear and perfectionism. The mind, faced with a difficult or overwhelming task, chooses the immediate, easy comfort of putting it off, rather than facing potential discomfort or failure. This fear can manifest as, what if I can't do it perfectly? Or what if people judge my work? The pressure to produce a flawless result can be so intense that the mind's best strategy becomes inaction. It is a protective mechanism, not a character flaw. Mind-controlled techniques for action. The solution isn't to force yourself to work. It's to outsmart the mind's resistance. Identity-based habits. Instead of focusing on what you need to do, focus on the type of person you want to be. For example, instead of saying, I need to write 1,000 words today, say, I am the type of person who is a writer. Writers show up every day to do the work. This frames your actions not as a chore, but as a confirmation of your identity, making it easier for your mind to get on board. A person who wants to be healthy might say, I am a person who enjoys exercise, not I have to go to the gym. Break down tasks into tiny steps. The mind gets overwhelmed by big, ambitious goals. It sees a massive project and defaults to procrastination. Break your large task into the smallest possible, non-intimidating steps. For example, a task like start writing my book is daunting, but open the Word document is easy. Write a single sentence is even easier. For a task like clean the house, a tiny step might be put one item away. For a workout, it could be put on my workout clothes. By starting with a tiny, manageable action, you overcome the initial resistance and build momentum. Chapter 11. The power of intentional thought. So far, we have focused on controlling and managing the negative. But true mental mastery is not just about what you stop doing. It's about what you start doing. It is a transition from passive thinking to active creation. You have the power not just to silence the noise, but to actively program your mind with the thoughts and beliefs that serve you. Affirmations and visualization. Affirmations. Affirmations are powerful statements you repeat to yourself to reinforce a desired belief. However, they must be used correctly. Simply saying, I am rich, when you're struggling with money will feel unbelievable and your mind will reject it. The key is to make the affirmations believable and present tense. The language of believable affirmations. Your affirmations should feel true, even if they aren't your full reality yet. Instead of "I am wealthy," try a process-oriented affirmation like "I am a resourceful and hardworking person who creates value for others," or "I am on the path to financial freedom, and I'm learning every day." These statements are grounded in what's currently true while still pointing toward your goal. The power of "I am," using present tense statements like "I am a confident and capable person," or "I am a focused individual," bypasses the mind's tendency to wait for a future state. It tells your brain to start behaving and thinking in that way right now. Visualization. Visualization is a powerful tool that uses your imagination to train your mind for success. Close your eyes and vividly imagine yourself already having achieved your goal. For example, if your goal is to land a new job, don't just imagine a job offer. Instead, imagine yourself walking into the office on your first day, feeling confident and competent. Imagine your new colleagues greeting you warmly, the sun shining through the window, and the feeling of excitement and belonging. Use all your senses. What do you hear? What do you see? How does the chair feel? To make the mental image as real as possible. This exercise is not magic. It's a mental rehearsal. It builds confidence, reduces anxiety, and makes you more likely to take the necessary actions to achieve your goal. By combining the principles of mental control with intentional thought and practice, you are not just managing your mind. You are using it to design the life you truly want to live. Part 4. The Journey of Lifelong Practice. You have come a long way. You now understand the untamed nature of your mind, the two systems that govern your thoughts, and the incredible power of your brain's neuroplasticity. You have also been introduced to the core principles of mental control and have learned how to apply them to common challenges. But this is not the end of the journey. It is a new beginning. Mental mastery is not a destination you arrive at, but a practice you commit to for life. This final section provides a roadmap for continued growth and leaves you with an empowering vision for the future. The habits you build now will serve as a foundation for the rest of your life, enabling you to navigate the inevitable challenges with grace and resilience. Chapter 12. Creating a personalized practice. The techniques you have learned, from breath work to visualization, are tools in your toolbox. The key to lasting change is to use them consistently, not just in moment of crisis. A daily practice, however small, is far more powerful than an occasional burst of effort. By weaving these habits into your daily routine, you are continually strengthening the new neural pathways we discussed earlier, making your controlled mind a new default. This is the essence of building a habit, the repetition of an action until it becomes automatic. Think of it as a form of deliberate self-programming. The daily routine, weaving practice into your life. A simple, effective routine doesn't need to take up a lot of time. The most important thing is consistency, even if it's just for a few minutes. Here is an example you can adapt to fit your own life. Morning routine, 5 to 10 minutes. Mindful moment. Before you check your phone, sit for 3 to 5 minutes and focus on your breath. Use this time to simply observe the sensations in your body and the thoughts that are already starting to swirl. Don't judge them, just watch them pass. This practice, often called meditation, is not about emptying your mind. It's about training your mind to be present. You are building the muscle of attention, which will serve you all day long. As thoughts inevitably arise, simply acknowledge them without getting involved and gently redirect your focus back to the feeling of the air entering and leaving your lungs. Set an intention. As you get ready for the day, consciously set an intention. Instead of letting the day happen to you, decide how you will approach it. For example, today, I will be patient with my colleagues, or today, I will focus on one task at a time and resist the urge to multitask. Write this intention down or repeat it silently to yourself. This proactive step puts you in the driver's seat of your day, rather than reacting to whatever comes your way. Gratitude practice. As you eat breakfast or drink your morning coffee, mentally list 3 things you are grateful for. This simple act primes your brain for positivity before you even start the day. Research has shown that a consistent gratitude practice can literally change your brain structure over time, making you more naturally inclined to notice and appreciate the good things in your life. Try to choose specific things, not just my family, but the way my child smiled at me this morning or the warmth of this coffee in my hands. Evening routine, 5 minutes. Review and reframe. At the end of the day, take a moment to reflect. Review your day and, if any moment of difficulty or frustration arose, reframe them as lessons. This is a crucial step to prevent rumination. Ask yourself, what did I learn today? What could I have done differently? What worked well? This exercise transforms setbacks from sources of stress into valuable data for personal growth. It helps you see yourself as a student of your own life rather than a victim of circumstance. Troubleshooting common challenges. Committing to a new practice isn't always easy. Here are some common roadblocks and how to overcome them. I can't stop thinking. This is the most common frustration with mindfulness. Remember, the goal isn't to stop thinking. The practice is in the act of gently bringing your attention back to your anchor, like your breath. Every time your mind wanders, think of each time your mind wanders, and you bring it back as a successful repetition. You are building a mental muscle. The point isn't to win the battle against your thoughts, but to observe them without attachment, recognizing them as just passing phenomena. You are the observer, not the thought. I don't have time. This is often a mental barrier, not a real one. You could be mindful while doing anything. A 5-minute breath awareness exercise on your commute, a mindful walk to the bathroom at work, or a moment of mindful eating during your lunch break are all opportunities. The key is to start small. A 1-minute mindful pause is a powerful act of self-care and a signal to your mind that you are serious about this practice. It's about finding tiny pockets of time and using them deliberately, not waiting for a perfect hour that may never come. I'm not doing it right. There is no right way to practice. The only wrong way is to not practice at all. Be kind to yourself. Some days will be easier than others. If you miss a day, don't spiral into self-criticism. Just start again the next day. The journey is about progress, not perfection. Chapter 13, Your Mind, Your Masterpiece. You now have the tools to live a life of intention and peace. You understand that your mind, default, is a chaotic stream of thoughts, but you also know that you can choose to become the conscious director. Let's briefly recap the key principles you have learned. Observation. You have learned to become an impartial witness to your thoughts, emotions, and bodily sensations. You now understand that you are not your thoughts. You are the one who is aware of them. This is a foundation of self-awareness. Detachment. By watching your thoughts like clouds, you have discovered the freedom of letting them go without judgment or attachment. This practice frees you from the emotional roller coaster of your own thoughts and allows you to respond to life with clarity rather than reaction. Conscious response. You have found the space between stimulus and reaction where your true power to choose resides. You can now pause, breathe, and choose a path that aligns with your highest self rather than being controlled by impulsive emotions. Intentional thought. You have moved from passively receiving thoughts to actively creating them, using affirmations and visualization to program your mind for success and resilience. You have learned that your thoughts are not just a reflection of reality. They are a powerful tool for shaping it. This journey of self-discovery is an ongoing one. Some days it will feel easy, and other days you will feel like you've taken a few steps backward. This is a natural part of the process. The important thing is to be compassionate with yourself and to return to your practice. Remember, your mind is your greatest tool. It is the engine of your creativity, the source of your resilience, and the foundation of your inner peace. For too long, you have let this tool run on autopilot. Now, you have the knowledge and the power to take the wheel. Live a life of intention, not impulse. Embrace the journey of lifelong practice. Your mind is your masterpiece, and now you have the ability to create it.